Hello YouTube. I wanted to tell you about this phenomenon for a long time, but I've been collecting materials and I am trying to find more about discoveries that pertain to the same period when this object was created. Because to me the period of, I would say 12,500 to 11,000 BC was a very interesting period, and a number of events took place which can be confirmed by some recent discoveries, but something huge took place about that period. But at this point I want to speak about the Shigir idol of the Ural mountains and tell you about it to those who do not know. The Shigir idol, found at the end of the 19th century in the Ural mountains, is today considered the oldest wooden sculpture in the world. It contains many riddles that modern historians and archaeologists cannot yet solve. The wooden statue was found in 1890 at the Second Kuryinsky mine of the Shigir peat bog in the vicinity of the Ural city of Nevyansk, and it was at the depth of 4 meters. Back in the middle of the 19th century, a gold deposit was discovered on the eastern slope of the Middle Urals, near the village of Kalata. Today it's called Kirovgrad. And gold prospectors more than once found objects of ancient culture made of horn, bone, wood, stone, and clay. In the 19th century or early 20th century, expeditions from Moscow, St. Petersburg, Kazan, and Paris visited these places, discovering traces of prehistoric settlement, as they revealed in the newspapers at that time. Most of the finds were made by the famous Shigir. It's in the storeroom of the Ural Society of Lovers of Natural Science. I'll refer to it as the society in the future, but I wanted you to know the entity that was involved. The wooden product was poorly preserved, and it had to be removed from the peat in parts. As a result, the upper part of the trunk with the head and the lower fragment in the shape of a cone with a recess at the base forming protrusions similar to legs, they were extracted separately. Interestingly, the torso had the shape of a flat rectangular board in cross-section, and the rest of the body parts were voluminous. Unlike most of these sculptures, which were usually dug into the ground with the lower part, this sculpture apparently was simply leaned or nailed to some vertical surface. Russian Count Stembok Fermor, on whose land the find was made, transferred it to this Society's museum in Yekaterinburg. Today it's called Sverdlovsk Regional Museum of Local Lore. The curator of the museum's archaeological collection, Lobanov, at the time, managed to recreate the supposed image of the idol. However, the height of the figure was only 2.8 meters, and some fragments were not involved basically in this. In 1914, the archaeologist Talmachov proposed a new hypothesis of the reconstruction of the monument, during which the idol, so to say, grew to 5.3 meters. Then the exhibit received this name, Big Shigir Idol. During the Second World War, the lower part of the trunk, with a length of 195 centimeters, was lost, and now it can be seen only in Tolmachov's drawings. In 1997, the staff of the St. Petersburg Institute of the History of the Material Culture and the Moscow Geological Institute of the Russian Academy of Sciences performed a radiocarbon analysis of samples of the inner layers of wood that make up the ancient monument. it was determined that the idol was made 9.5 thousand years ago in Mesolithic era. Since 2003, the Shigir idol has been kept in the museum in a glass sarcophagus. In the summer of 2014, a joint team of scientists from the German Archaeological Institute, the Department for the Protection of the Cultural Heritage of Lower Saxony, and the Moscow Institute of Archaeology of the Russian Academy of Sciences decided to conduct research in order to clarify the dating of the age of the sculpture. According to Mikhail Zhilin, a leading researcher at the Institute of Archaeology of the Russian Academy of Sciences, Doctor of Historical Sciences, it was not possible to take samples close to the surface due to the effects of preservatives. For the study, wood samples were taken at a depth of 2.3 centimeters. The idol belongs to the monumental art of hunters, fishermen, and gatherers of the Urals, commented Zhilin, made from a split trunk of a large tree, at least 157 years old. The work was carried out in a freshly cut trunk with a stone stool. There are also traces of ornament on the idol. In addition, the scientists mentioned that similar sculptures have been made by ancient farmers of the Middle East. Well, it was not so simple, and there was a scandal around this monument. To find out the exact age, the researchers sawed off the lower fragment of the statue, which became the reason for the accusation of damage to the monument of culture. Deputy Minister of Culture of the Russian Federation, Grigory Perumov, wrote a statement to the police in connection with the serious damage to the museum exhibit. A criminal case was initiated against the archaeologist under the article Destruction or Damage of Cultural Heritage Objects or Cultural Values. Meanwhile, the examination of new samples made it possible to change the original dating of the monument. According to the results of joint research by Russian and German scientists, the age of the Shigir idol is 11,000 years old. Natalia Vetrova, director of the Sverdlovsk Regional Museum of Local Lore, told Russian reporters at a press conference. Thus, its age is about twice the size, in terms of age, of the Egyptian pyramids. Although the museum management admits that the exhibit could have been damaged during the research, it claims that the scientists did not violate the law. Initially, the Shigir idol was already divided into 10 fragments, according to Vetrova. When selecting the material for the study, less than 2 grams of wood were taken. This method of sampling did not damage the relic. Well, there's more to the riddles of that monument, so to say. As the monument was explored, it began to present scientists with more and more riddles. 7 images of faces, or disguises, were found in different parts of the monument. One of these disguises was located where it should be, in the area of the idol's head, and the other 6 on the torso, 3 in front and 3 behind. There are only 5 such disguises in Tolmachov's drawings, 3 on the front side and 2 on the back. Okay? During the installation of the exhibition Shigirsky storeroom in August of 2003, another disguise was found on the back side of the trunk, somewhat different from others. If the others had rectangular noses, the nose of this figure was carved out of a tree branch and eventually turned out to be shorter than the others. It had a conical shape and looked more protruding, which gave it a resemblance to an animal muzzle. Recently, in the process of studying the artifact under a microscope, another disguise was found, located in the other part. Probably the spiritual world of ancient Uralians who lived in the Stone Age was actually much more complicated than we thought before, said Svetlana Savchenko, chief researcher of the Department of Ancient History of the peoples of the Urals of Sverdlovsk. In addition, the entire surface of the statue is covered with carved geometric ornaments and writings. To date, no one has managed to decipher them, Experts suggest that this is the world's oldest writing system. Before that, it was believed that the writing of mankind appeared about 7,000 years ago. In all likelihood, the authors of the sculpture were representatives of a sufficiently developed civilization. According to the appearance of the idol, you can imagine exactly how these ancient people looked. The statue has high cheekbones and a straight nose. What could be the writing on the surface of the statue? What could it say? One can only make various assumptions. According to some experts, this is a kind of secret code that carries information about the creation of the world. Perhaps each part of the statue carries a certain meaning. So, it has 7 faces and only one is 3-dimensional, and the disguises carved on the monument can denote spirits worshipped by ancient people. The location of the images on the front and back planes may indicate that these deities belong to different worlds. It is also possible that the images on the monument enciphered myths about the origin of the world and man. The vertical layout of the symbols may indicate a sequence of events, experts say. They believe that it is possible to distinguish among the images characters associated with the upper and the lower worlds. The upper world of most ancient civilizations meant the heavenly world, and the lower, underwater or underground. All of them were inhabited by their own denizens or inhabitants. You can also see figures on the surface of the sculpture symbolizing the masculine and feminine principles, the worlds of plants and animals. Unfortunately, the same hieroglyph characters can have several meanings, which makes it difficult for translators to work. Therefore, it remains a mystery what kind of people made this sculpture, for what purpose, and what they wanted to say by carving drawings and writings on it. Well, maybe the creators just hoped that sooner or later distant descendants would find this artifact and find out how the world works and what it was like in the old days. Or what makes us think that today we know more about the world than our ancestors who believe in deities and spirits. According to Mikhail Zhilin, the Shigir idol remains an absolute mystery of modern men. For modern men, this is a masterpiece that carries a huge emotional value and power, said the scientist. This is a unique sculpture. There is nothing like it in the world. Well, the strange geometric patterns and motifs found on the statue are very similar to hieroglyphs, and as it is believed, they represent some kind of a code. However, no one has the slightest idea what all of this means. And this mystery causes a lot of controversy and speculation. Again, some researchers claim that this is just a decorative ornament, but this claim has been challenged by many other theories. One of them suggests that the strange markings represent some mysterious encoded information related to the creation of the world, and they're an example of a very ancient writing system. Look, there are other hypotheses. One of them says it could be a totem with an inscription, which warned against those trying to approach it. It is assumed that once, probably, there were a large number of similar wooden statues. However, without the protective properties of peat, they dried up and rotted, and they disappeared into the fog of time, leaving us with only one mysterious sample. But despite all the assumptions, the Shigir idol and its mysterious code remain completely unencrypted, undeciphered. And apart from the mysterious code, the idol is unique in other ways. After all, before its discovery, it was believed for a long time that such ritual works of art first appeared about 8,000 years ago. This was done by the first settled farmers in the Middle East. However, this discovery of this statue showed that the ancient nomadic hunter-gatherers also led a sedentary life, and the same, which is very likely, engaged in agriculture. And they were very inventive and creatively developed. In a sense, the Shigir idol rewrote history as we know it. However, its exact purpose and how exactly it ended up in the swamp remain unknown to us. Look, the Ural Mountains, I've told you so much about the strange phenomena pertaining to the mountain and people who lived there and disappeared, and civilizations with strange knowledge. There have been many, and Ural Mountains should be studied more. Well, currently the Shigir idol is kept in a special glass showcase of the Ekaterinburg Historical Museum. It is filled with inert gases and under constant guard. This mysterious piece of lost history is still a mystery, despite all attempts to deal with it. And I again want to turn your attention to other parts of the world about the same time. You can do your own research if you want, looking at the dates. But I think that this is a part of the whole picture, so to say. We just don't know what the entire picture looks like. We will get there. Again, that period was very interesting. And I'm sure there will be more research pertaining to these strange Ural artifacts. But I don't want to leave Ural Mountains just yet. I want to talk about something very interesting. Just remember, biconic means having the form of two cones. Yuri Serikov from the Russian State Vocational Pedagogical University analyzed the biconic bone arrows of the Stone Age, previously found at the sanctuary on the Chusovaya River, and came to the conclusion that some of them were made on a lathe with a beam drive. Such arrows are ancient and about 7,300, 7,500 year old. That is, they belong to the Neolithic age. This makes the lathe or turning machine many thousands of years older, and also moves the place of its inventions from ancient Egypt to the Trans-Ural Mountains. The corresponding article was published in the Bulletin of Perm University in the series History. See, the Chusovaya River is located in the middle Urals and is famous for a huge number of rather peculiar archaeological sites, often having no direct analogues in areas close to it. There are unusual rock outcrops on the river where sanctuaries were arranged in ancient times. One of these places is a cave in the site called Stone Full of Holes. Actually, it's a rocky outcrop. So it's Stone Full of Holes in English. The local word stone in this case means a massive rock up to 80 meters high and up to 1 kilometer long, stretching along the river bank. The entrance to the cave is located at a height of about 20 meters on an absolutely sheer and almost smooth wall. That is, access to it has always been very hard. 22,000 arrowheads made of bone, bronze, iron, and stone were found in the cave. Some of them look very similar, and they were produced noticeably to the west or east of the Urals. Apparently, Chusovaya in ancient times was a busy transport corridor. Yuri Serikov, the archaeologist, the author of the work, and the archaeologist who previously discovered an unusual burial of a shaman and his assistant in a cave in the Rainstone, also on the Chusovaya River. Well, he analyzed the tips, arrow tips found in the cave, in the stone full of holes. Actually, he paid attention to the bone biconic tips. This is what the arrows are called, having the shape of two cones folded with a wide part to each other. The purpose of such arrows is not always clear. There are suggestions that they were used as whistling. The researchers studied 780 biconic arrowheads belonging to the Mesolithic, Neolithic, and Neolithic. 328 pieces belong to the Middle Stone Age. That's up to about 10,000 years ago for this region, among which there are two types, with a dividing belt, 90%, and without it, where the lower cone is wider than the upper one, the rest. Of the 383 Neolithic biconic arrowheads, a number 246 arrowheads have the correct shape of bodies of rotation. Such a shape could only appear as a result of turning an object. It is almost impossible to get it manually. One of the bone tips is completely made on a lathe. It doesn't bear traces of other types of processing. The author of the work notes that turning, cutting perpendicular to the axis of the tip, was carried out apparently on a relatively simple lathe with a beam drive. Rotation on the clamped workpiece in such a machine was probably achieved with the help of reciprocating movements of the bow, the string of which was wrapped around the workpiece. The hands of the turner squeezed the bow and moved it back and forth, while the bowstring slid along the workpiece, rotating it, and the cutter mounted in front of the workpiece carried out the processing. Traces of work on biconic tips indicate that Neolithic man in the territory of the Middle Urals used a lathe with a beam drive. In addition, the researchers also managed to prove that the bone from which the tips were ground out had previously been softened by chemical means. The possible age of the tips with traces of turning again is 7,300 to 7,500 years ago. It's based on the age of the bones found nearby. Until now, in the historical literature in the West, it is customary to call ancient Egypt the birthplace of the lathe, and its appearance is dated to about 1300 BC. It also had a beam drive. However, this date is 4,000 years younger than the products from Chusovaya. The author of the work mentions a number of other earlier finds of arrowheads in the Urals, also with traces of turning. However, these findings are little known in the general literature, which leads to frequent incorrect statements that the lathe appeared first among the ancient Egyptians. The lathe was one of the first created by humans, only by drilling machine, only the drilling machine type. And at first it was used about 40,000 to 50,000 years ago, and played a big role in obtaining products with a precisely specified shape. It was due to this that in ancient times it was possible to obtain the first power stone throwing machines, modern-looking water taps, and a number of other products. Again, there is so much in the Ural Mountains which, archaeologists are discovering and will discover more. Trust me, you put your hand into the ground, you dig, and you find very interesting things, and not only minerals and precious stones. And I'll bring you more information about the Urals, about all kinds of paranormal phenomena, as I have before, and you can find videos in my channel. I thank you for your attention. Please support me if you can. There are links in the description to this video. Please tell others and please subscribe.